Hey guys, welcome back to First and 10 over here on Clueless Gamers. I'm your host, Pete, joined as always in a second by my co-host, Brian. Brian, we're back. It's week number 1 recap, and of course, as always, we'll do our week 2 picks toward the end of this episode. We're back, ladies and gentlemen. Football is officially upon us. We now have one game for every team in the books. Now, yes, it is week 1, so we're not going to get too high or too low on some of these teams because we've seen a lot of weird week 1 performances before that don't determine the rest of the team's season. But nevertheless, there was some very interesting games. I thought there was some of the best regular season games in week 1 that we've gotten in the last 5 years or so. We're going to get into a bunch of that stuff. But with all that being said, Brian, welcome you in, man. How's your week going? How you been? And what a great first week of football from Thursday to Monday. How about that?
Yeah, very good. We had the season opener kicking off with the divisional matchup, the Cowboys and Eagles. That was kind of an interesting game. The
It was
Eagles
fun.
weren't at their best. Cowboys played, I think, a lot better than expectations, but the ultimate result, Philly prevailing. And then you get the Friday game, which we're going to get into, with the Chiefs falling to the Chargers, a team that they never seem to
Yeah.
lose to. So that's a bit eye-opening. And then you get to Sunday and action packed as always. It's the NFL. Red zone is king. It's now even more in the microscope than ever, I think, because of these
Certainly.
commercials that they're mixing in. But week 1 in the books, and as always, the NFL brings the headlines. So looking forward to diving into all of it.
Listen, they know how to bring the drama. They know how to deliver an entertainment product like no other sports league, I think, at least in the United States, if not the world. They are just excellent at that. Because you brought it up, just as a brief aside with Red Zone, so a lot of people having mixed opinions, most people being negative on it, some media people pushing back, saying, you're being ridiculous. It's only 1 minute. Sure, that's right now in 2025. If you were that naive to believe that these corporations are going to stop at 1 minute total for all of Red Zone's history, let's even say the next 5 years, you're out of your mind. You're out of your mind that you don't think that's going to extend to 2 minutes and then 5 minutes and so on and so forth. You know it's coming. It happens to every product. It's happened to all of our streaming services. Look at Netflix, right? That was the thing that you watch with no commercials, nothing. Now there's tiers that they set up. Like, it's happened on every single product, and I think it was very naive and a little bit misleading that I saw a lot of media members take on that approach and really try to downplay it. And I was just like, either that's bad journalism or you're kind of on the take here of these corporations and you don't want to say the wrong thing, because I thought that was just a very ludicrous statement to be saying, like as if you don't know that's not going to happen.
Yeah, and it just seems like you said, that now the door is open, that they're starting with the commercials, and that it will only increase from here. We can, I guess, only hope that that won't be the case, because for so long,
Yeah,
like, their billing was commercial-free
that's what they did.
football. That was the beauty of Red Zone. Yeah, and the fact that, there's that change now definitely changes the experience for all the viewers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had to, when you brought it up, I had to say that. But enough about commercials and red zone and corporations. That's not why you're watching this podcast. You're here to talk some football. So, Brian, let's jump into it. Week 1, the Friday game. NFL's been getting into this since really the World Cup of a few years ago, where they saw the ratings on a Friday and they said, whoa, why aren't we taking a slice of this? It makes sense. Friday night, people are off, don't have to get up the next day, have some NFL football. I think we're going to see it on a lot more Fridays going forward. But we had the Chargers and the Chiefs, a Chargers home game in Sao Paulo, Brazil. So the second year in a row the NFL is in Brazil. I think last year they were in Rio. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Maybe it was also Sao Paulo, but I thought it was Rio last year. And nevertheless, a game where the Chargers win 27-21. And there's some interesting things to talk about in this game, Bry. We could focus on the one side, if you want, of Justin Herbert and the Chargers. A lot of questions coming in here. The lack of weapons once again. Who's going to be there? Are they going to be an actual playoff contender, right? And I don't mean make the playoffs like they did last year and then get destroyed by the Texans in the wild card round. Like, are they actually going to be able to win a round or two? Can they be a threat to the Chiefs in the AFC West? That's a legitimate question. Herbert, not a spring chicken in terms of his NFL experience. This is year 6. When are we going to see the leap? When are we going to see, and me and you have both been on that bandwagon, when are we going to see him win a big game? Well, this was a big game, kind of as big of a game as you could get in a week 1 matchup, where you're playing a home game in another continent, in another country, and you're going against a Chiefs team that is the 3-time AFC champions winner. They got destroyed in the Super Bowl, so you would think they're going to feel motivated and mad coming out. And I thought the Chargers, wire to wire, Bri, really handled this game. So you could talk about it on that side, or if you want, you could talk about it on the other side. Did the Chiefs look that good? In my opinion, no. Like, I thought Mahomes played pretty well. I thought he was making some Superman pass. He was lateral to the ground. That 4th down conversion that he had down the field to Hollywood Brown at the end of the game. But outside of him, I don't feel like anyone was really good. And so which way would you prefer to take it? Do you focus more on the Chargers taking a next step and making a statement? Or is this a concerning sign? I bet that it's week 1, but a concerning sign for the Chiefs.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I think it's very close as to which way I go with this, and I'm leaning more towards my hesitancy with the Chiefs being like top of the league good, just because the Chargers, how many times do we have to see it where they have their moments season in and season out, and it just doesn't come together, and like I think there is potential with this Chargers team, and Justin Herbert in this game, it may have been one of the best games of his career.
He was
I mean,
great.
his numbers were just lights out. 3 touchdowns, no picks, throws for over 300 yards, great completion percentage. I mean, he got back in sync with Keenan Allen, who's back in
That was
town.
nice to
You
see.
know, you got Lad McConkey, you got Quentin Johnston. He was the guy who had the big game with 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
But, just the part of this game that I saw, it just felt like to me there was a malaise on the Chiefs side where I'm
100%.
like, I'm a little concerned about this team. And even like last year when they were winning, like how many games was it like where they pulled out of the fire?
Yeah.
And I just feel like you can't keep doing that year after year after year, relying on and the being able to make those winning plays when it matters the
Yeah.
most, when for most of the game you really aren't at your best.
Yeah.
And so this game, they didn't have that magic in them. Like you said, that Mahomes had that one great play down the field to Hollywood Brown, and he had a decent game, but they didn't get much going in the running game. Mahomes ended up
No,
being
it
their
was
leading
terrible.
rusher with 57 yards. And Hollywood Brown had 10 catches. You would expect if he's going to have 10 catches, it's going to be for more than 99 yards with his ability to
Nope.
get down the field. So I just felt like there wasn't enough there either side of the ball for the Chiefs where look, I'm not burying them. I'm not going
No,
to
no,
say,
no.
I don't think this team isn't going to make the playoffs, but I came away saying there's reasons to be concerned that this team might not be as good
Yeah.
as maybe everybody thinks.
Yeah, I'm definitely, I have learned my lesson, and I don't even feel like it was a long lesson because I very quickly, 4 or 5 years ago, got off, hey, we should not doubt this team, right? 2020, they get annihilated by the Bucks in the Super Bowl. The next year, I was on the train in 2021 of going, is this team really good? They were 3-4 through 7 games. They shut me up that year and going forward. So I don't question them in that way. But I do think this is a door that has cracked open since the Super Bowl where teams are not fearing them. And you could check the tape. You
Yeah.
go back last year when we were talking about it in the regular season. I made this point. I think you did as well. Part of the reason going into this game that they had a record, I think, or second best record in NFL history of 17 straight 1-score wins. Anytime they're in within 1 score, they win that game. It was obviously broken
Yeah.
last Friday. That to me is concerning, as you said, because think about last year, just a couple off the top of your head. The blocked field goal against the Broncos, they should have lost that game. The doink to win the division, remember that call, right? You have stuff like that. Even I remember the Raiders. I understand it's the
Yep.
Raiders. They can't get the snap together. There's a bunch of penalties. They
Hmm.
fumble it away at the end of the game, and the Chiefs look like they're going to choke that game. They got away with a lot of these moments. And the one thing I said was it wasn't really lucky. It was that the team they have an aura around them because they've conquered so much and they've accomplished so much that teams get tight in those moments against the Chiefs. I think that door, Bri, I think it's fair to say since the Super Bowl, it's opening a little bit. It's not wide open, but it has cracked open where teams are like, you know what? I don't know if I fear this team as much as I once did. They're not the 5 years ago Chiefs of Tyreek Hill, one play, 80-yard touchdown. They're not the young Kelsey. They're not even Mahomes throwing 50 touchdowns anymore. And Mahomes is what in this game, what was his average yards per distance? It was like 6.6 a throw. Like it is very within the line of scrimmage. Even Hollywood Brown that had the 99 yards, 49 were on that fourth down play. So we're talking 50 yards on 9 catches before that. Like that's not good. And that is what in the last couple of years the Chiefs offense has been. And I know people might say, especially if you're a Chiefs fan, well, Pete, 2 years ago, he won an MVP not really throwing the ball down the field and guys were dropping the ball. Sure, he did that, but I don't think year over year that's a consistent formula to replicate. And I think we saw that last year eroding, and we're seeing it once again. And I think that is the concerning part. Mahomes' numbers have been dropping, the offensive line. In this game, they threw up that stat, Bri, that this is the 11th left tackle that Mahomes has had since he's been there, and this is his, I think, 7th year. That's atrocious for what we would consider the best quarterback in football. He's had 11 left tackles. It's just not good enough, and I am a little concerned. I'm not ringing any bells that they're going to have a horrific, horrible season where they will miss the playoffs, but I am nervous. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't.
Yeah, no, I'm with you all the way here, and especially like when you look offensively, they're counting on Xavier Worthy to be like their big
And he
weapon.
gets
He
hurt
goes
3
out
plays
and
into the game.
right has a shoulder injury and is out for the game. Rashee Rice has had his off the field situation and
Yep.
is suspended for what the first 4 games I think
6.
it is.
For
6
6.
games. So
Yeah.
I mean that's a big loss right there, and they don't have like that guy who strikes fear in you on
Kelsey's not what
offense
he
anymore. Like
was.
Kelsey's not what he was, even though he had a touchdown in this game. And Tyreek Hill was for so long so responsible for all those big plays. They don't have that guy anymore. So they're gonna have to find a way to be more creative.
Straight up, Brian, I'm saying it right now. I don't know if it will happen. I don't know if it's possible to happen with the cap or anything else. If there's a way to get Tyreek Hill back, do it. He's unhappy in Miami. He clearly misses his time with the Chiefs. I think the Dolphins, we'll talk about them later, are going to be atrocious. As I said, they are going to be right there on week 1. And I think it would be a marriage that would really help both parties at this point. I know he's dealing with some off the field stuff. There was another accusation lawsuit thing that just came out a couple days ago. We're not talking about his personal legal problems. As a football player, I think he still has it in him, and I got to see more.
A very low flying plane.
I heard it too, right? You heard it? I was literally I was looking at your face. I was like, "Are you hearing the same plane that I'm hearing?" Yeah, sorry, ladies and gentlemen. There's a very low plane going over the area, so I apologize if you heard that on the video. There's obviously nothing we could do about that, but yeah. Hopefully that point still got across about Tyreek Hill. But yeah, do you think that would work in that way?
I could see it. I think, it makes sense, especially considering, as you point out, Miami is going nowhere. I mean, all you need to know about Tyreek Hill and how he feels about the Dolphins, just watch his comments after the last
Yep.
game last year. He was basically checked out.
Yep.
And it looks like, frankly, he's checked out to start this season, as maybe the entire team is after what we saw from the Dolphins in their week 1 no-show. So I mean, yeah, I think he would be rejuvenated going back to Kansas City, playing with Mahomes, and boy, could they use that production again. There's no doubt.
Absolutely. And before we get off this game, I do want to, I feel like specifically me, I want to give the Chargers the credit they deserve. That defense, number one scoring defense in the league last year, I had some doubts. Could they replicate that again? Well, you know what? Under Jim Harbaugh there and Jesse Minter, they looked great. Just as good as ever. Khalil Mack's still doing it at his age. Love what I was seeing there. And also, what was it? Tart, the defensive tackle, who was all over the field, batting, Mahomes' passes down at the line. I thought he was incredible too. And then I kind of like this mix here, right? Well, we had some questions about the pass catchers, but Quinton Johnson, who says he can't take a next step? I understand there was some broken coverages and stuff like that, but they've been raving about him in camp. Maybe he will take a leap. I mean, it is possible for players to develop positively. We see it every single season. And then you kind of add in Keenan Allen. He's familiar with Herbert. I really like that move. Ladd McConkey, I loved him even before he played a game for the Chargers last year. I wish the Rams got him. And then kind of this like combo of like a Conklin and a Will Dissly. I kind of like it. Like there's some pass catchers here that give me a little bit of faith. You get a Mario Hampton going, maybe a little sprinkling of Najee Harris, and all of a sudden, maybe we're not feeling as much the Rashawn Slater injury. We would love to have him, but maybe the Chargers are something to be considered as a major contender. I mean, it is week 1. The Chargers do Charger. We'll see, but this is Jim Harbaugh. I mean, he does change football coaches, and maybe we're seeing that right now.
He does, and he also does his best work with quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Colin Kaepernick, the best years of his career, of course, were when Harbaugh was there, and, of course, it didn't last for Kaepernick after Harbaugh was out of there, but, Harbaugh's made comments like, I woke up this morning, I want to get Justin Herbert to the Hall of Fame. Like,
Yeah.
he has a tremendous amount of belief in this quarterback, and, we know the kind of talent he has. It's just a matter of, kind of harnessing it. But if he can have more games like he did this past Friday night, I mean, this team has a chance to
Oh,
really
yeah.
do some things. And the AFC, there's room, for some playoff spots.
Resurrected Alex Smith's career. J.J. McCarthy in college. We'll talk about him a little bit later. Like, there is a long track record here. Andrew Luck, of course, in college as well. Harbaugh's been around, man, and he knows what he is doing. Brian, let's go to another big-time game that happened on Sunday. There's, of course, a whole bunch of storylines that we hinted at, but a game we didn't think we would talk about at all because, I mean, let's be real. It's the Jets, right? But the Pittsburgh Steelers go into MetLife. They win, knock off the Jets 34-32. But that, just them winning, obviously it sucks for you. The Jets lose. All that stuff sucks. But this was a great game. I think this is the best game in the 1 o'clock window and maybe the second best game of the weekend before right behind the Bills-Ravens game. We'll talk about that next. I really enjoyed what happened in this game. I love the drama. I love the little snide comments, even though Aaron Rodgers, I'm not a huge fan of him. I just love the drama that's built into it. I like Justin Fields' comments after the game. And there's something I said in the offseason about it is one game. They did lose. I get it. But I just feel like Aaron Glenn can change the culture here. There's just something about I watched his press conference today when I was at work. Like, there's just something about his demeanor that I believe in. Where I didn't feel that authenticity, and no shade to him because I think he's a great defensive coordinator, but I didn't feel that authenticity with Robert Saleh. And there's something about Glenn that there's this belief that I believe him, and I think Muji, right, is the GM or whatever that's there. I think that they can change things here. They're not going to be a winning team this year. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year, but this feels like a building block. There feels like there's something here. Even the move today where you guys cut the returner that fumbled the ball in this game, that's accountability immediately. And I like seeing that after the first game of the season. What did you think of your Jets? The floor is yours, man. In this week 1 loss, but did they impress you? Is there hope for you? What'd you think of the game?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, it was a terrific game. I did not expect it to be a shootout kind of game. I mean, if anything, I thought it would be more like, a 17-13 kind of game. The Steelers, their reputation for defense, and frankly, not knowing what we were going to get from the Jets on the offensive side of the ball. But boy, were they impressive! I mean, how many times do we see the Jets score 30 points? And now you think if they're going to be able to do that, that their defense would, be able to play well enough to get them a
Against a
win. I mean, this
41-year-old
felt like a
quarterback.
game. Exactly. This felt like a game that they absolutely had in their back pocket. And of course, there were just, too many mistakes, as you mentioned, with the fumble on the kickoff return. And clearly a message was sent in cutting Gibson. That news just coming down today. But, even in the loss, and while the loss is frustrating and, we've gone through the litany of Jets issues through the years. There were a lot of positives to take here. I mean,
Yeah,
the fact is, Justin Fields, he looked the part after a
he looked good.
preseason and a training camp where all the talk was how he was not looking good. He
Yeah,
was not accurate. And all the talk was how this offense was going to struggle mightily. That just shows, you don't put too much stock in the training camp and preseason results because those results were not good. And he came out on game day and he balled out. I mean, he was really impressive connecting with Garrett Wilson on that long touchdown. I mean, when do we see like 50-yard beautiful bombs
never,
downfield for
never.
touchdowns? Literally never. Not even with
Not from the
Rodgers. The
Jets,
last.
and not from Justin Fields. No.
No, no, not expected at all. But not only did Fields play well, I felt like the offensive line, which I thought would be a
They look
big
good.
strength, and I know it's missing Vera Tucker, which is obviously critical. But they got after it, and had some success with the ground game. I mean, Brees Hall. I don't want to say he was left for dead, but I think expectations were a lot more
There was some
tempered for
pressure
him,
on him.
and yeah, and he looked fresh out there. I mean, averaging over 5.5 yards a carry, goes for over 100 yards. You mix in Braylon Allen at this short yardage touchdown. So offensively, I mean, they really did a lot of good things. It's just a matter of cleaning up those couple of mistakes that cost you games. And if they can do that, maybe the arrow is pointed in the right direction. I like what I'm seeing early from Aaron Glenn. I think I have more faith in him as the head coach than I do the new GM. The new GM is kind of, I don't know where I'm at with him. But, week one, we focus on the positive, even though it was a loss. I like the fact that Fields looked really good. I like the fact that the offense, you know, put up 30 points because, like I said, when
Yeah,
do we ever see that?
never.
And hopefully it'll be a good sign of things to come.
Do you not like the GM just based on some comments or just like a general vibe that you feel?
Yeah, it's kind of a vibe thing. He reminds me a little bit of John Idzik
Oh, that's
from
not good.
years ago,
That's not
and
good.
yeah, that's exactly the face to make. Yeah, when you bring up John Idzik's name, it's just like kind of awkward, and
Yeah.
he doesn't give me the sense that he's gonna be great in the role.
But
Hopefully, I'll be wrong,
yeah,
but
hopefully you'll be wrong and he'll be excellent. And the Membu pick so far, he was great as one of the highest
yeah,
right tackles on Sunday. He looked really solid. You slide over Titman with obviously Vera Tucker being out, which I mean he's always out. He's literally always hurt, unfortunately, even though he's a really good player when he's in there. Garrett Wilson looked good as advertised for the money they paid him. Sauce I thought did a pretty good job out there when he was kind of
hmm
on and off again against DK Metcalf. There's definitely some things to clean up defensively, and that's where Aaron Glenn specializes. But I was impressed with what I see. And, on the other side with the Steelers, the Steelers are such a tough team, right? Because for
yeah,
me to decipher, because every year I feel like they start off like this. Every year I feel like you and I and other people as well, we doubt them because, like, just on paper, like, they're just not great. But then Tomlin, the thing he hangs his hat on these days, right, is like, well, he never has a losing season. But I just don't know, and it is just week one. I just don't know how much I believe in this performance. Like, is it just the Jets, or is it, and Rodgers was so extra motivated against them because, he has
yeah,
this ridiculous grudge in his mind that he thinks the Jets wronged him, even though
yeah,
he controlled the whole organization for 2 years, but that's a whole nother topic. But will they keep this up? He is 41. He did take hits. He did take 4 sacks. I just don't know if you could keep that up for 17 games. I still don't love this receiving core outside of DK Metcalf. I still think there's huge questions in the running game and the offensive line for this team. And then, yeah, the Jets scored 32 points. So, like, how great is this defense outside of maybe a
Yeah.
TJ Watt and maybe a rejuvenated Jalen Ramsey? I mean, look, Jalen Ramsey, he made the play at the end of the game, but he had a
Yeah.
couple blown coverages again in this game. So like, and that's just what he does. I got used to him doing that with the Rams. He's a very feast or famine player. I just don't know where I'm at on the Steelers, right? Like I give them the props, give Rodgers the props. He throws 4 touchdowns, but I don't know if I have more belief in them today. It's odd. It's like I have more faith in what I've seen out of the Jets than I do in a win for the Steelers. And I know that's not
Yeah.
fair, but that's just how I feel.
No, it almost like if you watch this game from start to finish, you would have said like more good things about the Jets, I think, than Pittsburgh. Even though the win went to the Steelers and Rodgers, I mean, look, he played really well. I mean, it was better, I think, than anyone could have thought. Like there was more zip on the ball. Like I don't think he looked like this in any of his games with the
Of
Jets
course.
last year, and of course, like you said, I mean, he was extra motivated. You heard all the post game. He was
What'd you think of him, Sal?
satisfied to be. It was a little bit much. I
Yeah.
thought, especially like when you consider like they tailored every
Everything.
decision to his
They're
liking.
still paying
Like
Alan
everyone,
Lazar. He's not even. He was
Alan
deactivated.
Lazard. He wants his buddy Nathaniel Hackett in there. They bring him in to be the offensive coordinator. The guy's a
Nathaniel Hackett.
terrible offensive coordinator. So every player he wanted, they brought in. So yeah, I mean, it really just came
Remember
down
Randall
to he
Cobb?
had Randall Cobb
What are we
too.
doing?
Yep, he had a grudge against Aaron Glenn because he flew all the way to New Jersey when he felt like it could have just been a phone call if they were going to tell him that they
Right.
were moving on, and that really rubbed him the wrong way, I guess, and so. He was, as he said, very satisfied to beat everyone associated with the Jets. So,
It's a crazy comment.
we have to deal with it, but it was unfortunate, as I'm sure Dylan, our good friend who was in the building, to watch
And
him go
everybody
out
else.
there and light it
Yeah.
up and throw 4 touchdowns. I mean
Yeah.
that
It's tough.
it was a tough pill to swallow. But I'm with you. Like I don't know exactly what to make of this Steeler team. I mean, coming in, I wasn't too high on them. I'm still really not. Like I don't think Rodgers is going to
Agreed.
have too many games like this. It just seems like he wanted so badly to beat the Jets, and now like the rest of the season he can stink and he'd be fine with it. So
Yeah, I don't know. Like I'm all for motivators. Brady was historically a psycho, right? Like he would just say fake things in his head that like, oh, that person said that about me. I get that. But with Aaron Rodgers, it's like the one thing I'll give him, he's when he's mad, he'll be honest about it. Like he's not the most authentic person normally, but when he's angry, he'll just say it. And I just think his grudge is a little childish. It's a little ridiculous. And look, if he needs that to motivate himself at 41 and probably his last year, who am I to say otherwise, right? He's one of the all-time greats. He's a supreme athlete. I understand that. But I mean, the Jets did everything for you. That whole organization did. Cobb and Adams and Lazard and Hackett and they brought in one of the offensive linemen that didn't even play. His name is eluding me right now. Like they brought in everybody he wanted, did everything for him, kept up all those ridiculous stories year one after he tears his Achilles and like they keep that seat warm for me. They make the playoffs. I'll be back. No, you're not. Everybody knows you're not coming back. Like, stop it. So I roll my eyes more when I see that stuff. But hey, to each his own, I guess. Bry, let's get to the
yeah,
best game of the weekend. The Sunday night matchup, Ravens against the Bills, go in there to Highland Park. The last year that the Bills are having a stadium, which, that kind of aggravates me that they're going to be making like a dome-like stadium. But that's, this is not a weather channel, so we're not talking about that. But this game is one of the best regular season games I can remember in the last 5 or 10 years. It was an incredible game. Every time I thought this game was over, that the Ravens had outplayed them, they buried them. the same thing that they did to him last regular season when they won, I think, like 35-10. I was like, it's over. Especially 40-25. I was like, the game's over. For the
Yeah.
Bills to come back in this game, do you see it, Bry, winning this game 41-40? Do you see this more as an amazing Bills comeback, or was this yet another Ravens collapse? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I give the Bills a lot of credit for coming back, but I mean, to me, it's a little more on the other side, the Ravens. When you have a 15-point lead, and it's not like it was a 15-point lead with like a full quarter to play. It's like 5 minutes left. They got a 15-point lead. Like that's a game that you got to put to bed, and you figure a team like the Ravens is best equipped to do that with the kind of running game that they have, and Derrick Henry who just
It's unstoppable.
exploded again, just had a monster game, right? And you talk about how incredible a fit he has been. I mean, it's been a match made in heaven now for a second
It is
year
the
with
most
him in the
obvious thing,
backfield.
Brian. Like nobody gave this guy a call, and it was literally the most obvious thing, and it wasn't even that expensive. Like, why would you not add Derrick Henry to your team?
Yeah, and with what Lamar can do running the ball, like defenses almost just have no chance
No
with like
chance.
that kind of dynamic the backfield. But at the same time, as great of a game as this was for Henry in the running game, like his fumble, that was
Turned the game.
crucial. The Bills don't come back without that, and I give the Bills credit for coming back and Josh Allen, putting on the Superman cape as he seems to do
Ridiculous.
every Sunday now for the last year plus. I mean, it really is just remarkable what he's able to do. But I just feel like the Ravens, you got a 15-point lead after what happened in the playoffs last year, a very winnable game in that divisional round. You couldn't seal the deal then. It's almost becoming a pattern now with this Raven team that with the Super Bowl expectations on them. That's not a good opening salvo, so to speak, to have that lead and let it get away. I just don't think it bodes well. Look, we know they're going to win enough games in the regular season. We know they're going to be in the playoffs, but that's the kind of game where it's like, is this team have the chops to win the Super Bowl? And when you get a result like that, it leaves you questioning.
Yeah, Brian, I don't think there's any question that it's a pattern. This is who they are. And until they prove otherwise, this is who they are. It's why I did not pick them to even go to the Super Bowl or anything in the prediction show. Because when the going gets tough, there's no denying that they might be the most talented team in football. That
Mm-hmm.
attack of Henry and Lamar is one of the best combinations of players we've seen in recent memory, at least in our lifetime, watching
Yes.
and covering the
Yeah.
game. There is just something about them in these, dare I say, clutch moments that they just fold. Like they in when the lights are the brightest, whether it's a huge week 1 game that could determine playoff seeding later and who's playing at home, or it is an actual high stakes playoff game, they just can't do it. And whether it's Lamar earlier this year in January, putting the ball on the turf in that playoff game against the Bills, throwing that other terrible pick. Mark Andrews, sure-handed all the time, drops the potential game-tying 2-point conversion. There's just something. Here it was Henry's fumble. Like, there's just something that just doesn't click in these moments with this team. I don't know if it's a Lamar problem. I don't know if it's a John Harbaugh problem. There's something that needs to
Yeah.
be shaken up. And I'm telling you right now, Brian, there is absolutely no way if this Ravens team, they're going to be great. They're going to make the playoffs. They're going to do all that stuff. If they have a game like this again in the playoffs and they choke again, there is no way John Harbaugh is keeping his job. There's just no way. I'm saying it in week 1. It would be ludicrous. And I'm not trying to call for anybody's job, but, these guys also pay millions of dollars too. So it's not like, huge amounts of tears are going out to them. But at some point, you have to shake something up. And I think this is kind of that monster in the back of their heads that's there. And they could play it off and they could say the same things. I watched all their press conferences, say all these things and be lighthearted. And John Harbaugh could joke, oh, well, all these leads blown. Well, you must have to have a whole bunch of leads to do that. Look at all our double-digit wins, all these things. This isn't normal, and they lead the league, especially out of winning playoff teams by far, in blowing these double-digit leads since, like, I saw that. It was like since, like, 2020 or 2021 or something like that. That's not normal. Something has to be changed in that dynamic, and I just don't know what it's going to be. And every time I want to believe in them, a moment like this happens where I can't.
Yeah, it's almost like, they get leads and they sit on them and they allow teams to get back into games, and we see it in the playoffs and in regular season, really both. So, they're not immune to these kind of games. And yeah, I mean, I like this was a classic kind of game. I mean, 41-40,
Incredible.
a shootout, really a great first one to watch for Sunday Night Football. But for them to come up short is a tough pill to swallow.
I wanted to get your thoughts before we go to the Bills, and then we'll go to our final game. What did you think of John Harbaugh's decision at the end of the game? To me, I thought that was insanity. Where they have the ball, they're up by 2. You do not want to give the ball back to Josh Allen. Any of these quarterbacks, Lamar, Josh Allen, Mahomes, even Burrow, you're not giving them the ball. They are most likely going to win the game, especially when you only need a field goal. And I know they said Lamar was cramping, and he definitely did look like he was hurt on the third down play. But then you call a timeout, try to get him right. You call a play to Derrick Henry. Hell, at that point, you bring in your backup quarterback. Off the top of my head, I don't even know who their backup quarterback is. Anything. You do anything you can in short yardage there on fourth down to pick it up, because so what if you don't convert? You're going to lose anyway. There is an overwhelming chance that your defense, which was gassed, which Josh Allen had been chewing up all night, was not going to stop him when all he needed was a field goal. What do you think of that decision of just not calling a timeout, punting the ball away, and ending the game essentially for themselves?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a conservative call, and the way I think about it is just like today's NFL, it just feels automatic, like it's a go for it situation.
Yeah.
I mean, there's very few coaches. Todd Bowles, when he was with the Jets, would have punted there. But outside of that, I mean,
Was
it
it
feels
Joe
like,
Judge when he was running the QB
oh,
sneaks,
Joe
right?
Judge, yeah,
On third
right,
down.
he's another one. This is how they're both New York coaches. Boy, have we been lucky the last few years. But in this NFL, in this climate of the NFL, it's automatic for coaches to go for it in that situation. So very conservative call, especially when your offense was rolling like it was, and you have so many plays in your pocket, whether it's Lamar, whether it's Derrick Henry, as you say, even bringing the backup quarterback, whatever the case is, to get 3 yards. I mean, you were beating them all game long. You feel reasonably confident you could get it done in that spot. So I'm inclined to agree.
Like I'm sorry, I feel very confident that you could wildcat snap the ball to Derrick Henry and he could pick up 3 yards. Like the way that game was
Yes.
going. Like I feel if Lamar couldn't go, bring him in there as a decoy. He doesn't even have to be part of the play. He's just there as a decoy that the defense, even one defender, has to think about it for 1 second. That's all you need. And that could have been the end of the game. I just thought that was an insane decision. But, Brian, on the other side, though, we touched on it a little bit, but Josh Allen is just ridiculous, dude. I mean, if there was any people, and there definitely was a lot of people, if Weird watches this podcast, I'm looking at you, sir, that doubted his MVP last year, thought Lamar should have been the MVP. Lamar did have better numbers. But I said it's just more than that. It's what he does for the Buffalo Bills. It's that I think he is playing on a less talented team than Lamar plays with the Ravens. And to put on that cape again, to throw for almost 400 yards, to lead a comeback that the Ravens opened the door a little bit, but you actually delivered upon it. And it's still, could Keon Coleman be the next big weapon? Maybe. But for the most part, these are guys that, Palmer and Keon Coleman in his second year, and Shakir, he's a nice player, but he's not. it's not like he's going out there with this insane level Eagles style talent. To do what he does week in and week out, he deserves all the credit and more. I mean, what an incredible performance on Sunday night.
No doubt, and yeah, I mean, you hit on it. Like Keon Coleman was their leading receiver. He was the only one who went for over 100 yards, but you got like three or four other players who top 40 and 50 yards because Allen has just become one of those guys who makes the teammates around him better. That's what we said for so many years. The Brady Patriots, like he just worked with what he had. We know he had the Randy Mosses and those guys, but how many guys did he make so much better than they actually were?
Amendola,
And I think
Edelman.
right, it was always like those little slot receiver kind of guys. And Allen is now doing that with his cast of characters. Like there's not an alpha receiver on this group, but he's making Shakir a player, he's making Coleman a player. You know, he's got decent running backs with him. James Cook had a very good year last year, but it's not like it's all pro talent
No.
around him on offense. And he's just going out there and putting this team on his back every week, and the
Yeah.
results have really been remarkable. For him, it's just a matter of finishing the job in the
Yeah.
playoffs, which, you know, as my prediction was this year, that they were going to get it done. You know,
Mine too.
they've got a long way to go, but I think they've got as good a chance of anybody because of the quarterback and what he brings to the table.
To be honest, his big thing that has stopped him obviously has been Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. He's lost to him 4 times. If there's a
Yeah.
possibility that he doesn't meet him in, let's say, an AFC championship this year, I feel very confident he's going to the Super Bowl. Like, I feel very confident he's beating the rest of the field. I just do at this point, and I think he's just ascended to even another level, and I'm very interested to see if he could continue his MVP performance. He did on Sunday night, and we'll see for the rest of the season. Brian, the final game I want to talk about before we get into those picks was the Monday night game. So very basic, a lot of the primetime games this week, but that's where the interesting stuff was. The Vikings go into Chicago. They win it 27-24, have their own, not as, crazy, but still a pretty impressive fourth quarter comeback they have against the Bears. Ben Johnson in his debut for the Bears as head coach. Caleb Williams year 2. J.J. McCarthy in basically a pseudo-rookie year because he missed all of last year, making his debut with Kevin O'Connell. I was concerned. And I don't know if you want to speak more to the Vikings part because I know that's your team the last couple of years, but I'm concerned about the Bears. You end up usually being more right in these situations than I do. I have this little bit of interest and love for the Bears. Maybe it's because I love the city of Chicago personally. It's one of my favorite places to go to. But it just feels like every time that there is a little bit of hope, and I understand it's week 1, I get it. But there's just some things from Caleb that, like, from last year and then even in this game, I just don't love. And I didn't like it in college when he was at Oklahoma, when he was at USC.
Yeah.
His body language is just awful. It just is. And you might say, if you're listening, that's stupid, Pete. Like, why he's playing quarterback? It matters. It matters when you are a public face of an organization, of a company, basically, all these teams are. It matters how you present yourself. I don't have a problem with players being emotional, right? Another Brady reference here. We saw him do that all the time throughout his career. Be Psycho Tom, right? Like, that was a thing. We've seen players have emotion and play at their best. There's not a problem with that. It's the way that when things are going awry, that he just throws the head back and the disgust and the eye roll and the pouting and the heavy, on the bench. And, like, that is the concerning part for me. And he doesn't hide it. And the cameras catch it on the field. They catch it on the sideline. Teammates see that. And they see that especially when he individually is struggling. And that is what I'm concerned about. Now, Ben Johnson has coached him hard, right? We've seen that in all these reports. But we also had an article come out right before this game. I don't know if you had a chance to read this. And I apologize. I'm not remembering the author's name of the journalist that wrote it. But it was a very damning article about the Bears organization. You could probably look it up on a quick Google search. And it was talking about mostly last year and what it was like inside the building and how Ryan Poles operates as the GM and how Caleb Williams is perceived by people in there, and kind of it gives off a kind of a negative connotation that we've heard about Caleb, and kind of this diva vibe that he has going on. And we know he has kind of a good relationship, but they're definitely strong in terms between him and his father, right? And how they were trying to trademark things and get pieces of ownership of the team before he was drafted. All of that to say that this melds into when you then collapse on Monday Night Football with your new head coach at home against the team, the Vikings, that I don't think any of us thinks they're going to the Super Bowl, against a pseudo rookie quarterback. That's a problem when that guy outplays you and he does it in one quarter. That's a problem. And when Caleb Williams is scripted, 10 for 10 to start off the game, he looked pretty good. And then after that, I think he was like 10 of 24 or something like that the rest of the game. That's an issue. What'd you think of Monday night's game?
Yeah, I mean, like, the way the game started, like the Bears get the opening drive, go right down the field and score a touchdown, and you think like they're off and running, like they're gonna coast. But I especially thought the game was over after the pick six of JJ McCarthy.
Yeah.
I mean, then I was like, okay, this really isn't the Vikings day, and I'm thinking my pick for the Vikings to win the division not looking so good with the way they were going here, but they obviously were impressive in the way they came back. And for the Bears, to me, it just feels like more of the same. I mean, you know me. This is why I don't buy into this
Yeah.
team, even when like all the focus during the offseason was, creating a better environment, so to speak, for Caleb Williams. The way they went to work on that offensive line, really beefed that up, completely revamped it, and yet still the results after the first game weren't very good. I feel like the path that he's kind of going down, and maybe you'll agree with this, maybe not. It's another former number one overall pick at quarterback. I feel like it might be a little bit like a Jameis Winston kind of
Okay.
career that we're going to see from
Okay.
Caleb Williams. And it just shows you that just because you pick a quarterback number one
Yeah.
doesn't mean they're going to be a franchise changer. For there are certainly some out there, but there's more that don't pan out,
Yeah.
it seems like. So I'm not a believer in this Bears team in this game. I mean, the fact that they blew a lead, a game that they were seemed like they were in control of for 3 quarters, and then for the Vikings to steal it from them on their home field, and the big debut with the new coach. To me, it's just all very negative signs going forward for the Bears.
Yeah, thinking about it, for me, I think Caleb, I would connect more to a number one overall pick in Kyler Murray. I think Kyler Murray has some problems with body language sometimes. There's obviously been the whole things, Call of Duty and otherwise, of his commitment to certain things and how much he takes it seriously and what is his ceiling. We know he could spin it, but like, how great is he when the going gets tough? I think that's a legitimate question to give. And I they're like the Jags of the NFC for me, where like there's just something about them I can't quit. I
Mm.
can't quit it, but I definitely looked at this and went, ooh, crap. Like maybe I should really, I had them in third this year, but like maybe I should pause some expectations about what I think about what Ben Johnson could do with this team, and maybe Caleb is just going to be okay. He's not going to be this hyped superstar that everybody thought he was going to be. I didn't think he'd be a superstar, but I thought he'd be a star. I thought he'd be good.
Yeah.
And maybe he won't even be good. Maybe he'll just be average. And that, I think, is not what the city of Chicago is looking for. And it's going to be up to Ben Johnson to correct all of those mistakes from body language to actual play, because Bro, he had some accuracy issues in this game where, like, that one he missed to DJ Moore that was a wide open touchdown at the end of the game. He missed him by, like, 7 yards. I mean, I thought that was insane. That is concerning when he's throwing only about 60, 61 completion percentage, even dating back to last year. Not great. So you need to see a little bit more out of a guy that has such natural talent. On the other side, Bry, for me, could you not have a quarterback in J.J. McCarthy? Could you not have a guy that looked so lost, so awful for 3 quarters. Looked like he didn't even
Yeah.
belong in the league. He wasn't ready. And to turn around in that fourth quarter for his teammates and his coach, man, how damn good is Kevin O'Connell? To have that belief in him, to instill it in him. And you know what McCarthy showed me as the opposite of Caleb? And I don't know if McCarthy's going to be a great player. I don't know. I definitely have some skepticism about him. But you know what I like about him? He's got a little fire in his belly. He got a little bit there where like there's some raw emotion there where it feels like, yeah, you know what? He's only 22. That could be a guy that his teammates believe in. That he definitely like he's got a better arm than I thought. He's got some great velocity he was throwing on some of those balls. Like he's got his mobility. There could be something there, and under the tutelage of Kevin O'Connell, it's one game. I'm not anointing him anything. I don't even know if he's going to be an average quarterback, but the way he had the persistence to play as bad as he did and to turn that around and lead his team to victory, play an excellent fourth quarter, Bri, I'd be lying. To say I wasn't impressed. I mean, what'd you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, not much was going right for the Vikings team through 3 quarters of this game. I mean, they were getting badly outplayed. They could not move the ball offensively. They couldn't get the ball into the hands of their stars. I mean, Justin Jefferson was doing nothing until the fourth quarter when he, caught a touchdown, had a couple catches. Wasn't overall a big game from him or T.J. Hawkinson or Aaron Jones or, Adam Thielen, really any of these guys. But yeah, I think it was good perseverance and certainly bodes well for a rookie quarterback, in his first start to stand in there after, nothing was going right and to have that turnaround in a divisional game on the road. I think that's a lot of good signs there for McCarthy, and I think he's in a good position to have success with the kind of talent he does have around him.
Yeah, I just, it's not that I doubt Kevin O'Connell, but they always have these rotating quarterbacks in Minnesota. And every time, no matter it's Kirk Cousins or Sam Darnold or now J.J.
Yeah.
McCarthy, we'll see what he's able to do because this is really his project, right? Like, and I'm not meaning any disrespect to J.J. McCarthy. I'm just saying, like, he got to draft this guy. Like, this is his guy that he got to draft. He didn't inherit them. It wasn't a free agent deal. This is his guy, and I'm really excited to see what he can offer, man. What a win for the Vikings, and what a collapse there for the Bears. Brian, before we get out of here, let's jump to some Week 2 picks. We'll do some lightning round stuff going on here. We'll kick off tomorrow night, Thursday night. What a great Thursday night game here. Commanders at the Packers. Both teams 1-0. Definitely some up and downs were like in week 1 where, yeah, they looked good, but Packers really had a great first half, not a great second half. Commanders were kind of coasting through the game against the Giants. Who do you have winning this one on Thursday night?
Yeah, I think it is a good matchup for Thursday night, the first one that'll be on Amazon Prime for the season. So another chance to hear Al Michaels, which for me is always a treat. But I am taking the Packers in this game. I feel like they are the better team. A very impressive Week 1 performance, making the Lions look not very good.
Yeah.
And I know they got out to a big lead and then, maybe kind of sat on it a little bit. But I think the Packers at home here, Washington, they did win, of course, beating the Giants. I didn't think they played their best game. I thought it was more about the Giants' ineptitude, which
Yeah.
we'll touch on, I'm sure, when we get to them. But I am taking the Packers to get to 2-0 here with another home victory.
Yeah, I'm taking the Packers as well. I think the Commanders are a good team. I just think right now the Packers playing at home, the fan base is juiced up. That defense under Jeff Hafley has looked great in the last 2 years, man. Like they really have. Now you're adding Micah Parsons. He's not in game shape right now. We could all see it. He was on a pitch count. He'll get even more and more snaps as the season goes on. I think it's going to be a hell of a game. Give me the Packers. And it's funny. Right around this time last year, the Commanders were also on Thursday night playing the Bengals, and that's where I feel like the Commanders arrived and Jaden Daniels arrived. Everybody picked the Bengals last year. Commanders pulled it out. That'd be interesting if we saw that once again, but I'm taking the Packers. The Sunday night game, the Sunday day games at 1 o'clock kickoff. Brian, with the Browns and the Ravens. I mean, I'm making this simple. I'm taking the Ravens. I understand it's a divisional game. They've lost to the Browns before. Blah blah blah. They're bouncing back. They're winning.
Yeah, I think the Ravens are the pick here. I wouldn't be surprised if it was within 10 points or
Yeah,
so,
it'll be
just
close.
because divisional games, yeah, you never know.
Jags go to the Bengals. This is a fun matchup. You know, the Bengals did not play a great game in week one. They had 7 offensive yards in the second half. That is just ridiculous for the talent that they have on that team. And the Jags played a weird game. You know, they're against the Panthers. The game was delayed over 90 minutes due to lightning storms.
Mhm.
Kind of a weird vibe of how you're feeling in this game. Who you got winning this one?
Yeah, I have Cincinnati. I mean, I do think you have to be encouraged with the way Jacksonville played, albeit against the Carolina Panthers, and I don't think anybody thinks that's a very good team that they played. But there were encouraging signs. Lawrence looked the part. He played
He
better.
played
You
solid.
know, they got Travis Hunter into the mix. He didn't make any game-breaking plays, but he contributed both sides of the ball, so that was all good. But Cincinnati at home, I expect their offense to look a lot better. I mean, Joe Burrow only threw for barely over 100 yards in that game against the Browns. It was when they had to kind of grind out. I think they get it opened up more, get the weapons all involved. Bengals score 30 and win soundly.
Yeah, I'm taking the Bengals as well. I think this is actually going to be a hell of a game, but they got to get right. Joe Burrow can't. He started off already slow. They're lucky they got a win. This defense was much maligned all offseason. They actually saved the game for them. I expect him to play much better. Give me the Bengals. The Giants go to the Cowboys, which for the Giants, Bry, has been a house of horrors. I think they've lost something crazy, like 13 games or something in Dallas, like in a row or something like that. It's something crazy stat like that. You could correct me if I'm wrong. They looked atrocious, maybe the worst up there with the Dolphins in week one. They're starting
Yep.
Russ again in this game. We didn't think much of Dallas coming into that, but I thought Thursday night we both kind of thought, they played pretty decent against the Eagles. They could have won if CeeDee Lamb could have caught the ball. Give me the Cowboys, man. I think this is going to be a really bad look for New York Giants fans.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the only question in Giants land is when do they make the quarterback change? We're already having that conversation after just 1 week. I mean, Russell Wilson, we know what Russell Wilson is. I mean, how many years have we seen it now? He was terrible in Denver. He wasn't particularly good in his 1 year in Pittsburgh. It's like all of a sudden now he's going to have a renaissance with a bad team around him, terrible offensive line. Like, it's just not going to be there for Wilson. Dart is going to play probably sooner than later, I would imagine. I mean, we know it's not going to be this week. And, I don't know if Dart is going to be the answer just because the team around him is just not good. I mean, how many years is it going to take for them to get this offensive line right? It's just been a mess
They can't,
year
no
after
matter how
year.
many draft picks.
No, and when Andrew Thomas doesn't play, it's flat out non-functional, as it was in their Week 1 no-show in Washington. Very good Cowboy team, but they've had the Giants number. They're considerably better than the Giants right now. I believe the Cowboys will even up the record at a game apiece.
The Bears go to the Lions, two teams coming off some heartbreaking or surprising losses here. Brian, I'm taking the Lions here. I just think that Detroit's going to have a bounce back game. I definitely am a little more concerned than I was going into week one. I thought that they would pull back, still win the division, maybe go from 15 games to 11 games. Now a little bit nervous. I mean, the offensive line losses, the coordinator losses. Jared Goff looked out of sorts. It's not like their defense is super elite, but that place in Detroit is going to be rocking for game one. I have no faith in the Bears right now going in there. Give them the Lions.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting with the storyline of Ben Johnson going back there. But yeah, I think the Lions kind of get back on their feet after last week just wasn't good across the board. But this is a good spot to get a Bears team that's down after their Week 1 loss. I think we're going to see the Lions look more like, last year's Lions, get the offense going, get the running game going, and they win this one.
The Patriots go down to Miami, and two teams that massively disappointed in week one. The Dolphins may be looking the worst of any team in the NFL. Who you got winning this one?
Boy, I don't really feel good either way here. I mean, Miami was just flat out awful
Awful.
in Indianapolis. It was a game that going in I thought was like a toss-up game. Like yeah, I thought either team could win. I did not expect, 33-8 or whatever it ended up being, in which
Yeah, it
Daniel
was
Jones, scored on every possession, all seven, becoming like the
insanity.
first player in, 50 years or whatever it was. But I'm gonna take the Patriots. I just feel like Miami is kind of lost as a franchise right now. It seems like we're ticking down the weeks until Mike McDaniel gets the firing papers. It just feels like things are crumbling in that organization. I don't think New England by any means is in any great straits, and they're coming off a home loss in week one. But I'm going to take them to pull out a close one.
Yeah, I've went back and forth. This is, I think, my most difficult pick of the week. I'm also going to take the Patriots. I have to stick to my philosophy that I think at the end of the season they're going to be a better team. I picked them to be in second, missed the playoffs. I picked the Dolphins to be one of the worst teams in the league. They looked like that last week. I have to stick to that. I think the house is on fire. It is burned to the ground already, and Mike McDaniels is going to be homeless very, very, very soon. I mean, even his press conference comments after the game and something about talking about death and it's better than dying, or I don't even know what the heck he
Very,
was saying.
very strange guy.
Like, just
Very
I was just like,
strange guy.
okay, whatever. I mean, I just think everybody's checked out. Hill was, going crazy on the sidelines, and Tua looked awful. He gave some weird comments, and then a reporter asked him about, why do you feel like your turnovers come in bunches? And he criticized that question, even though I thought it was completely fair. He looked atrocious. The Dolphins are in a lot of trouble. I think this game is going to be ugly, low scoring, probably like 13-10 or something like that. But I'm taking the
Yeah.
Patriots, and I don't feel great about it. The Niners go to the Saints, and this game has suddenly become very interesting, Bry, because you would think going in, Niners easily. But you know what? The Saints didn't play terrible last week. Had a chance to tie it up there at the end of the game with Spencer Rattler, which I'm not super high on. But remember, in this game, no George Kittle. He's been placed in the IR basically after one drive, which looked really good to start the season. Kyle Shanahan today came out and said Brock Purdy, a long, long shot to play on Sunday. There's some reports he might be out for several weeks dealing with a shoulder and a toe injury. Again, something I've said in the last couple of years. Low key in all this MVP, Purdy, this talk, we've talked about on the show. Guy is very, very injury prone. So you have a situation going on there. Jawan Jennings left the game last week as well, hurt. So now you're looking. Trent Williams was in and out of the lineup against Seattle last week. You're looking at Ricky Parasol and Mac Jones getting a possible start. Who you taking down in New Orleans, Bry?
Yeah, I mean, you laid out all the issues there. I'm still going to take the 49ers. I think they find a way. If there's a coach who can get the most out of, regardless who's playing quarterback for a given team, it seems like it's Kyle Shanahan. And I know we haven't exactly seen much from Mac Jones in his career with the Patriots and his, brief stint with the Jaguars, right, when he was just awful. But better talent around him, even with some guys out. Lean heavily on Christian McCaffrey, and I think that'll be enough for them to get the win.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really, really weird game that goes back and forth. I have to believe when it comes down to it that the culture of the 49ers is going to prevail here. I just think the Saints are
Yeah.
a bottom like 2 or 3 team in the league. And I get it. It's Mac Jones, but McCaffrey's still going to play. Parasol, Ricky Parasol is interesting. You still have Bosa on the other side closing out that game last week. I just think there are more players here that the Niners could somehow, hell, if the game's 10-3, that they can grit out a win here. I think it's going to be ugly given the Niners. The Bills go to the Jets, and now the Bills, Bry, have historically had trouble in the Josh Allen era against the Bills. That being said, just the way Buffalo is humming right now, man, I can't pick them over the Jets. Give me the Bills.
Yeah, I mean, I think this will be a good game. I would like to see the Jets have another competitive effort, to really show that the culture is changing. You can't say it after just one game. You need to see, I mean, really for a whole season to really buy in fully to what Aaron Glenn is bringing. But it's just a tough matchup. It's Josh Allen on the other side and all he brings. I think it's going to be a tough day at the office for a defense that gave up over 30 points to the old Aaron Rodgers. What's Josh Allen going to do? Josh Allen going to do to them? So yeah, I'm taking Buffalo.
The Seattle Seahawks travel to the Steelers. This will be an interesting game. It's a fascinating matchup. The Seahawks a little bit unimpressive, more than I expected last week, only scoring 13 points, and then over 30 points as we've talked about with the Pittsburgh Steelers. This game in Pittsburgh, cross country game. Who you got winning this one, Bry?
I'm going to take a flyer on Seattle here. We talked about kind of our skepticism of the Steelers, although DK Metcalf may be especially
Right.
motivated here going against the team that traded him away. We so often hear about these revenge games,
Yeah.
but like I'm not fully buying the Steelers. I mean, can Rodgers put together another effort like he did last week at his age? And Darnold looked decent last week. I mean, it wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. I think he's got decent weaponry around him. Smith and Jigba, especially. They have Kenneth Walker at least healthy with Charbonnet. It's a good 1-2 punch in that backfield. I'm gonna say the Seahawks maybe get a surprising win here on the road.
Yeah, there's just I've gone back and forth in this game, and it's tough for me just because I do have Seattle winning this division, but I don't want to just be strapped down to my predictions. I got to go with what I'm feeling and what I see kind of the tide for this game. I'm taking the Steelers in this one. I'm not a big believer in Pittsburgh, as I said earlier in this podcast, but there's just something about being in, you know, I'm still calling it Heinz Field in Pittsburgh. Just what that environment has to offer. I don't know if Sam Darnold is going to be flourishing, particularly in that environment. And I just think if this game's in Seattle, I'm taking the Steelers. But for it being in Pittsburgh, I'm taking. I mean, I'm taking the Seahawks, but for it being in Pittsburgh, I'm taking the Steelers. The final 1 o'clock game, Bry, is my Rams going into the Titans, playing their rare 1 o'clock game, traveling cross country. Look, I'm taking the Rams. I'll just say it right here. I will not be surprised if the Rams lose this game. I'm not being typical pessimist. Think about 2 years ago, the Titans were not predicted to win. I think they still had Ryan Tannehill. They came into LA and beat the Rams. The Rams have three offensive linemen that might not play in this game. Steve Avila has an injury. Kevin Dotson has an injury. Rob Havenstein has an injury. That's your left guard, your right guard, and your right tackle. Now you got Jeffrey Simmons coming into your game. That's a game wrecker. So I'm definitely a little worried. Our defense looked really good last week against the Texans. The offense, not so much. I think it's going to be a very low scoring game, but still picking the Rams to pull it out.
Yeah, only scoring 14 points last week, but the defense holding Houston to 9 is kind of an unusual score last week. I'm taking the Rams too. I mean, the Titans were competitive in their game last week at Denver. I think Cam Ward will play like a typical rookie where, he'll have some good weeks and he'll have some bad weeks. There'll be, some ups and downs for him, but going against that front that the Rams bring defensively is imposing for anyone, let alone a rookie. I think that's the difference here, and the Rams, still have some good weaponry for Stafford to go to, namely Puka Nacua,
He's
who
so
just
good.
always seems to do it. Yeah, he is an absolute beast, even though he was slowed a bit by what a concussion they were checking him out for. I guess he was pronounced
Yeah,
okay.
he kind of got hit on what I think was a little bit of a dirty bang bang play. He didn't have a concussion, but it split open his eye. He had to get butterfly stitches in his eye. Played most of the game like that. Had to keep clearing the blood out. I mean, the guy's a damn warrior, man. He's so good, and I like to see Safford spread the ball a little bit more, get some of the tight ends involved a little bit more, maybe get the running game going. But yeah, I'm concerned about the offensive line, but that defense deserves a lot of credit. And shout out Nate Lamb, man, with that punch out to save the game, newest linebacker on the team. Really, really love to see that. The 4 o'clock
But yeah,
game.
my pick is the Rams. Yeah.
Yeah, I figured. The 4 o'clock games kick off at 4:05. Panthers, Cardinals. Taking the Cards here. Just think overall, top to bottom, they're a better team. I didn't really understand the people jumping on the Panthers bandwagon before the season started. But hey, shout out J.C. Horn. What a pick he had against Jacksonville, the one-handed catch. That was basically the highlights for the Panthers. Give me the Cardinals.
Yeah, that was a highlight. Outside of that, for Bryce Young, it was more like the rookie year Bryce Young, which was not good. And yeah, so the Cardinals at home here in the home opener, I think they're the far superior team. An interesting team, if they can get things all on the same page, I think they win here.
The Broncos are headed to the Colts. The Daniel Jones 7-for-7 Colts hosting the Broncos, where Bo Nix looked atrocious last week. They won. He's lucky. That Denver defense is good,
Yeah.
but man, that one pick he threw, where he's like, I'm on my couch and he's staring at 3 defenders and just threw it right to them. There wasn't even a Bronco. I was like, what are you even seeing when you're looking at that? It's not like the pass rush was in his face. I go back and forth on, do I really believe that the Colts and Daniel Jones, even at home, can win 2 straight games? I don't. I'm sticking with the Broncos. I think that defense is going to give him problems. But hell, I'll eat crow if next week Daniel Jones is 2-0, but give me the Broncos.
Yeah, I think it's different going from the Miami defense to the Denver
Yep.
defense, which presents a lot of problems for opposing quarterbacks. And I mean, you got to give him credit. Daniel Jones was just played a lights out game. I mean, he was fantastic. But I think Denver here is the slightly better team. I think Bo Nix has to play better than he did last week, and I agree. I mean, not only the one interception that you referenced, but just the part of the game that I saw last week, there were like 3 or 4 throws that I was like, what is going on here?
I
Where
have
he was
no
just
idea.
way,
No idea.
way off the mark. So he's obviously got to play a lot better, and I'm sure Sean Payton knows that. I'm going Denver here on the road.
Probably the game of the week, America's game of the week, 425. The Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles will head to Kansas City, who is staring in the face 0-2. Bry, in the Super Bowl rematchup, who you got?
Yeah, the Philly is favored in the game as I'm seeing by a point and a half. I can't imagine the last time the Chiefs were underdog at home. I mean, it's got to
Yeah,
be a
been a
very
while.
long time. I believe I'm going with the Chiefs here. I just cannot see them starting 0-2. I think then, the alarm bells are really going off. And by the way, the Eagles, very good team, but they didn't look great in their week
Weren't super
one win
impressive.
over Dallas. So I think going on the road here, I think it's important for the Chiefs to erase a little bit of the sting of last year's Super Bowl. Obviously, you're not going to erase it too much just because it's a regular season game compared to the Super Bowl. But I think playing at home, needing to bounce back after a lackluster week one, I think we're going to see the Chiefs put their best effort out there. I think they take this one.
Yeah, I'm taking the Eagles. I think there's something about this matchup that the Eagles at this point just have their number. I know the defense there's a lot of changing parts and all that, but sometimes playing a divisional team, it's just tough. You just know each other so well. I do have some concerns about that Eagles secondary for sure, but I just don't know if the Chiefs have the offense at this point to exploit it. I don't think Xavier Worthy is going to play in this game. So it's Hollywood Brown and an old Travis Kelce and Juju Smith-Schuster. Like, I just don't have a lot of faith in that. It'll be a fun one. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I'm still taking the Eagles to win. The Sunday night game is the Falcons and the Vikings. You know what, Brian? Low key, Michael Penix looked pretty solid last week, even in a loss to Tampa. And then obviously we talked about Minnesota. Who you got winning on Sunday Night Football?
Well, yeah, this is a very unconventional Sunday night kind of game. I
Very
mean, we
exactly,
see
yeah.
a lot of the same teams on Sunday night. You see a lot of the Packers, a lot of the Cowboys, a lot of the Bills, the Chiefs, but you don't see a lot of the Atlanta Falcons, especially. Yeah, I mean, their game last week came right down to the wire, came down to the missed field goal at the end, which would have forced the game into overtime. It was a very makeable kick by Younghoe Koo, but he didn't get the job done. Falcons came up short. I mean, you know my feeling on the Vikings, and especially when they're at home, like they're one of the best teams in their building. You know, I think they build on what we saw in their comeback last Monday night and get to 2-0 here.
I really think this is going to be a good game, but I'm taking Minnesota as well. That skull clap, man, it could do something to you. And I think Brian Flores playing a young quarterback in Michael Penix really, in his first full year actually starting, only a handful of starts under his belt. We know how crazy that defensive scheme is. I mean, Brock Purdy said it as well last season. I'm taking the Vikings. I think this is going to be a really fun one. Two Monday night games here, Bry, which I really do not like when they do that. Especially, I actually prefer when they put them on around the same time. When they do this late night baseball crap where the game starts at 10 p.m. and I have to go to bed because I work, really pisses me off. I do not like that. But the 7 o'clock game starts with the Bucks at the Texans. The Bucks honestly didn't look as good as I thought they would last week. They eke out a win. Emeka Mbuka looked as good as I thought he would. Thought Baker in the offensive line really struggled. No Tristan Wirfs. The defense, it's kind of hit or miss. You really have Winfield and then nobody really of super note for the most part that is at least playing up to Pro Bowl level these days. And then the Texans, I think they're going to be what they are. I think they'll win the AFC South, but I think offensively they're really, really going to struggle. There's just a lot of missing pieces on this team. I'm taking the Bucks to win this one. I just think they have more talent, and I think they're going to have kind of a quote-unquote bounce-back game. They're going to play a lot better. Give me the Bucks.
Yeah, I'm taking the Bucks too. I feel better about their quarterback situation than I do the Texans right now. And I thought this would be a pretty good year for Stroud, but boy, I mean, week one was a tough slog against what we know is a good defense with the Rams. But yeah, I mean, something's just not there with the Houston offense. You know, you're missing key players in Tank Dell and Joe Mixon and relying on Nick Chubb, who's had his share of injuries running the ball. So, yeah, I think even though it wasn't Baker's best last week, we know what he's been in a Bucks uniform, and that is, quite frankly, a top 10 quarterback.
Yep.
So I think that'll be on display, and I'm taking the Bucks.
The final game of week 2 is the 10 o'clock game, the Chargers visiting the Raiders. I know the Raiders are getting a lot of praise. Geno threw for like over 360 yards, but they were playing the Patriots. He still had some missed throws. He had a pick as well that was pretty bad. I mean, Geno's a gunslinger. That's what he does. But all the praise we talked about the Chargers at the beginning of this podcast, there's no way I'm going against them now. I like them in this matchup. Give me the LA Chargers and Justin Herbert.
Yeah, and it was not a notable debut for the very hyped Ashton
Yep.
Genty in his first game. The
19
Patriots
carries,
kind of held.
38 yards, I think he had.
Yeah, not exactly
Yeah.
outstanding work, but yeah, I'm taking the Chargers too. I think they're the better team. I mean, again, these divisional games, it always seems like they can come down to the wire and be a field goal. I think it'll be a very close game, but I think the Chargers are just flat out better right now and will get it done.
Guys, that wraps up the show here in our week 2 picks and talk and all of that stuff for week 1. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're still with us at this point, probably over an hour in, we greatly appreciate you. We always appreciate comments down below. We saw last week's comments. We appreciate that, and interacting with this video and liking, subscribing, and sharing with your friends. All of that really helps us with the show and the algorithm and all that blah, blah, blah data just to get the show out there. Bri, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Well, we talked a little bit about Jim Harbaugh and of course Justin Herbert. Did you happen to see the little back and forth between Ryan Clark and Jim Harbaugh?
Yeah, I thought it was a little odd. I thought Ryan Clark with the Schrager stuff a few days before that was weird. I mean,
Yeah,
Ryan Clark is just a really weird analyst. It feels like he kicks up things just to be in the headlines. Like I don't know, is that wrong to say? Like I don't feel like sometimes he comes off as authentic as he's trying to be.
yeah, I could see that, but boy, Jim Harbaugh had no use for Ryan Clark. I
No,
mean,
he
just
doesn't have time for that crap.
eviscerated him when challenged. Because Clark made some kind of comment about how Justin Herbert hasn't won anything, which, by the way,
Yeah.
he's right. But
Yeah, it's perfect.
Jim Harbaugh came back and is like, boy, that's rich coming from a guy who played on defenses that were driven by Troy Polamalu and James Harrison. I mean, Ryan Clark was a good player in his day. I mean,
Yeah,
he
but he
wasn't Troy
wasn't them.
Polamalu or
No.
he wasn't them. But I mean, boy, that struck a nerve with Harbaugh because
Yeah,
he
he
and
doesn't
then
play with
later
that stuff.
he made the comment like when Clark gets canned from ESPN, send him to LA. I'm looking to fill a position for a water boy.
Oh, it's so good, dude. I'm so glad you brought that up at the end of the show. Yeah, Jim Harbaugh does not play. We knew that, and I think Clark was looking for a soundbite, and he certainly got it. And the Schrager situation there, where he basically said, people like you or I, or someone way more well connected, and Peter Schrager that have not played the game, we basically have no opinion on the game. Ridiculous. We've been doing this for 6 years. I don't care if 5 people watch or 5 million people watch. We're still going to talk about the podcast. We're still going to talk about football. It doesn't matter that we didn't play at any pro level. Who cares? I still watch it. I study it. I think I know some about it. I don't know a guy that, wore the helmet, of course, but I'm always willing to listen to that guy and learn from them. I don't need to disparage them,
Mm-hmm.
just like they don't need to disparage me. So, yeah, Ryan Clark has had a weird week. Kind of well deserved for some of the comments he's made, and I'm sure he'll keep making them because he just seems like he likes being in the headlines. But yeah, guys, I'll wrap this up here. As I said earlier, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share with your friends if you'd be so kind. And until next week, where we jump into week 2 and do some week 3 picks. Thanks for watching.